Hello, you're listening to Count Richard von Coudenhove Kalergi. Just past the Church of the Three Patrons there in Rathgar, and one of the things that always struck me about that church is there's actually 5 statues in it. But there you go. Today is Sunday, the 21st of June, Father's Day, and the longest day of the year. The longest day, also the name of a book written by Cornelius Rhine on the D-Day landings. Now on this day in 1798, the Battle of Vinegar Hill takes place in Wexford, just outside Enniscorthy, with an attack by 13,000 British troops on up to 20,000 civilians, mostly armed only with pikes, and resulted in the deaths of over 1,000 Irish and 100 British soldiers. It was also the first time that delayed fused shells called shrapnels were used, designed by Major General Henry Shrapnel as an anti-personnel artillery, and sporadic fighting continued until the end of October. And on this day in 1900, China formally declares war against the United States during what became known as the Boxer Rebellion, due to the fact that many of the Chinese practiced martial arts which was known in the Western world as Chinese boxing. And it was a war against imperialist, anti-foreign and anti-Christian uprising, which would last until 1901 and involved an alliance of up to 8 countries, and over 100,000 were killed, including 32,000 Chinese Christians and 200 Western ministries. And on this day in 1919, Admiral Ludwig von Ritter, commander of the German High Seas Fleet, interned at Scapa Flow in the Orkney Islands, ordered the scuttling of the whole fleet of 74 ships, including 10 battleships, to prevent them being handed over to the victorious Allies just hours before the signing of the Treaty of Versailles. And as it's the longest day in June in 1944, would have been the 21st of June, was a Wednesday, and the American forces had entered Cherbourg, which had been fortified by the Germans. And unfortunately, during the bombing campaign of the D-Day landings, up to 10,000 French civilians were killed during that. And we're heading in towards Ranelagh here. The triangle is a very famous landmark, and we'll be turning right up in towards Ranelagh village. Taxi rank just there on the left hand side. Now, as a result, the rules seem to be changing daily. A quote from Thomas Sowell, a socialist American economist and social theorist, who said, quote, "It is hard to imagine a more stupid or dangerous way of making decisions than putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong." He's done some excellent interviews on YouTube, and I strongly recommend watching some of his work. And he had an interesting one recently I found on slavery, where he stated that slavery did not just happen to one race or one people, and that it mentions the number of white people enslaved by the Barbary pirates of North Africa far exceeded the number of Africans in the United States and the colonies combined. And interestingly, the Barbary pirates also took, I think it was 300 people from Baltimore and Cork in 1631. And in fact, that was one of the reasons why the French actually invaded North Africa, was to prevent acts of piracy on French shipping in the Mediterranean. But and also I was watching a discussion there about the removing of statues. Isn't it very interesting today? A statue for Vladimir Lenin was actually unveiled in Germany, and yet in the other parts of the world are trying to pull down statues. But there was an interview with a lady on Channel 4 News talking about Churchill, and she was a pastor, Lorraine Jones, and she was asked should the statue of Churchill be removed or not, and she replied that some said he was a hero, others said he was a racist, but that she had personally not met him, Isn't that something, huh? And isn't it gas to think that is a person really considered to give an opinion on a main news type bulletin? And Churchill once said that courage is the first of human qualities, because it is the quality that guarantees all the others. And courage, I think, is the ability to put on a uniform and wear it for your country. And unfortunately, like the Garda that was killed during the week, Colm Horkan, shot dead by his own weapon, and is the 89th member of the Garda Síochána to be killed in the line of duty in the state. And we also had in the UK there, you had the stabbing of up to 12 people who were in a park by a chap that turned out to be a Libyan asylum seeker, and he killed 3 people and injured another another 3 seriously injured. But also the use of the term mental issues was brought up yet again with dealing with these cases, you know. And unfortunately today in Blanchardstown there was a woman stabbed using a samurai sword, you know. But just on the comment of uniform, I've always had an interest in military history, and I had the privilege of meeting some 3 very interesting gentlemen when I was younger. One of them was a man called Adolf Galland, who was general of fighters during the Second World War, who shot down 103 Allied aircraft, and he flew the Me-109 during the Battle of Britain, and gave the famous comment to Goring when Goring asked him what did he need, and his response was, how about a squadron of Spitfires? Needless to say, he fell foul of the senior command and was desk bound, and then returned to active duty in the, I think, mid-1944, and eventually flew in the German jet fighter squadron flying the Me-262. Another gentleman I met was a man called, he flew Wing Commander Ken Wallace, and he actually flew the little autogyro in the James Bond movie, I think You Only Live Twice. It was supposed to be set in Japan, and that gentleman, they reckon, flew almost every single aircraft that actually flew. And the third man was actually Wrongway Corrigan, who flew across the Atlantic in 1938, and I met him over here on the 50th anniversary of that flight, never admitting that he was known as Wrongway Corrigan because he flew from Los Angeles to New York and was supposed to fly back, but allegedly set his compass up wrong and ended up heading out into the Atlantic then rather than back towards Los Angeles. But there you go. So they're just a couple of thoughts this week. My comments are my own. Thanks for listening. Good night, good luck, and God bless.